PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Canat.
All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go!
Contact between the Mercedes teammates.
Denoso with a crafty maneuver up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Beresne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to PSGL. Now, you might see, it looks like I'm joined alongside by my good friend Max. Sadly, I'm not. But it is the social races, finally. It is time to get back to the social races. We had them on F1 23, and now the new game of F1 24 is out. We are back to them once again. As, of course, we always have social races before we get to the main calendar and the main season of PSGL. It's always kind of a tester to see how the game is and how much people actually enjoy it. So tonight we've got quite a few interesting things going on. Sadly, I don't actually have a grid. I sadly forgot to get that to get the grid together. But even though I don't have a grid put together for this, I do have a track map, which is great. So here is the track map. It is Qatar. It's the Lusail circuit. 5.380 kilometers, 3.3 miles, 16 turns, 1 DRS zone. Not a lot of elevation on this track except through turn 12, 13, 14, and 15, when you see the most elevation on the entire track. I have to say, that is going to be some important places on the track to get some overtaking and a couple of things to go. Of course, Qatar, very different track, which compared to the rest of the calendar. I always find that Qatar, I always think of it as the long version of the Miami circuits in Sector 1. Not a lot of hard braking. I think the hardest braking comes down in the hairpin at the end of Sector, I think it's the first corner of Sector 2, where you actually get the hairpin, where you actually have to do some hard braking for that corner. I think the next part is also the next hairpin, which is a couple of corners later. I believe it's just 3 corners later. I think it's 2 or 3 corners. I'm not sure whether it counts as 2 or 3. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, so essentially that is how the track goes. So there's a lot of chances for mistakes. Now, of course, with this year's game, the cars are quite snappy. They're quite difficult on the brakes and on the throttle, and especially through corners. A lot of people talk about how the handling's been on the game. And I have to say, the handling has been very different, shall we say. It's been a very different sort of handling we've had for this year's game. Of course, it's only been out since the 28th, so it's only been out for sort of 2 days. This is the 3rd day since its release. And so drivers haven't had a lot of time to get used to it, but hopefully they've been practicing for these social races, because we know they've been coming around for the last sort of 1 to 2 weeks. We sort of know they've been around, just waiting to see who's forming on the grid for them. A couple of drivers in this lobby, and here in lobby 2, that I do know about. For instance, one of them, Tuomas Lamminen, who I do know from other racing series, not just PSGL. Also just a couple of others. Daniele Parodi as well, somebody who I've commentated on before. Zach Miles, I believe, is in. I'm not 100% sure whether he's in on this grid. Let me have a look. I think I've got the grid. I've got the grid somewhere. I'll just read it to you guys. So yeah, here it is. So in the Williams, we have Linus Donovan and Tuomas Lamminen. In the Racing Bulls car, we have Liam Stevens and Jack Humphreys. In the Sauber, we have Joey Van Bussel and Daniel Gottschalk. I'm sorry if I've really ruined your name. I'm trying my best. In the Red Bull, we have Domi JD and Sergio Sabrino. In the Mercedes, we have Riccardo Benzoni and Noel Carlman. In the McLaren, we have Sixto Lintar and Daniele Parodi. In the Ferrari, we have Zach Miles, Mirko Suriano. Then the Aston Martin, we have Nando Moreira and Felipe Sousa. Oh, Philip Sousa. I don't know why I said Felipe. In the Alpine, we have Keanu Latour and Kuba. I'm not going to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. I will mess it up. And in the Haas, finally and lastly, we have Legend Rosenberg and Ivan Santamaria. A couple of drivers on that list that I know. Ivan Santamaria, Zach Miles, Daniele Parodi, Sixten Linthart, Jerry Van Bussel. I've also had the absolute pleasure of commentating over, which of course we all love to hear and to see, you know, to always see that. But the main thing is action will be coming very shortly. In the next couple of moments, we'll be having action. We're just waiting to see whether we're getting started or not. We should be in the next few moments. I think it's about... We've got a 20... By the way, just to put out there, what the layout is going to be for this social race. It is a short qualifying, so 18 minutes, and it's then followed by a 29-lap race around the lovely Qatari track of Lusail. We should be getting going shortly. I do apologise for the lobby being slightly late. Sadly, a previous lobby host had to back out of doing it, but I believe we're meant to be getting going very, very shortly. But like I said, the grid is stacked. It's really got a lot of really fast drivers. Philip Sousa, Tumas Lamnin. We've got Zach Miles in there. We've got Keanu Latour, Linus Donovan. You know, we've got some really fast drivers, especially other drivers like Jerry Van Bussel and Jonah Martens, who is also in there. I should say who. He's in there as well. I think you guys will know Jonah Martens from being part of the Ferrari Esports. Is he on the list? I swear I saw him on the list. I swear I saw him on there. Unless I'm going blind and he's actually not driving. I swear it doesn't. It says he's not driving. I'm surprised. Okay, I guess we'll figure that. I guess we'll figure that one out. I think he's driving. He should be driving. Yeah. Okay. We'll figure that one out when we get to when we finally get to the track. But we'll see what car it is, because I'm just looking at the lobby and we are actually getting into the lobby right this minute now. So let's get into it. Let's head straight to it. I do apologise for the beautiful OBS. Hopefully everybody's having a good stream. So here we are, all ready to go. For the first time on F124, PSGL will be racing. Racing returns, but we've got to do the qualifying first, and then we can get onto the race cars flying out of the pits. Yes, I was actually correct. Jonah Martens is actually driving. If you guys think it's a little loud, a little quiet, please do let me know. Just let me know, because it's been a while since I've done any streaming. But the first man out on track is Liam Stevens, along with Liam Stevens and Tumas Lamnin. Jonah Martens has retired. I believe we've had a slight little problem. Yeah, I've just realised that. I've just realised the screen isn't taking up the whole thing, and I'm not sure why. I will fix that. Please do give me a minute. I'm going to try and fix that. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Yeah, because on my screen it's perfectly fine. Not sure why it is like that. I'm looking into that now, because I've just realised that's happening. Please, like I said, I do apologise that this is happening. It's all testing. I'm not sure why I'm testing at this point. Still, I'm testing. But I'm fixing it, okay? I'm getting there. I'm fixing it. Let me test if this should be working now. This should be working. I'd be shocked if this isn't working. This should be working. So give me a slight minute to find out whether this does still work, because this has got to be working. And if it doesn't, this might be a long night. Yeah, Liam Stevens at the moment is on a lap. I'm just waiting for the stream to catch up. And how is it still like, okay, let me try and fix, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure what is going on at all with this. Yeah, I'm gonna try and fix that while I'm at it, because I know something is going wrong with it. So I do apologize for all these problems so early on. I'll be gone for about a minute and a half, so please do give me a second. Yes, I'm rather confused. I'm just trying to fix everything at the moment because it's not wanting to fix itself today. Okay. Gonna try. I do apologise once again. I sincerely apologise for these problems from the outset, because I never expected it to happen. I shall try to fix these as soon as possible. Thank you, actually. Thank you, Lucy. Hang on. Give me a minute. It is screen. Transform. Okay. Transform. Fit to screen. Okay. This should work now. This should work. Technical problems should end. Technical problems should end here and now. They should end. Everything should be working now. Or it might not. I'm not 100% sure why this is happening to me tonight. Why? Why is this happening to me? Why on the one night I need it? The one night, yeah. I'm gonna fixing this. I promise you I'll fix this within the next within the next about 3 minutes. So please do give me these 3 minutes just to fix this, because this is a problem that I've never had. I've never had this before, and it's not like, it's for some reason not liking me today. So I'm gonna fix everything, and everything should work. If it doesn't, I'm absolutely surprised if it doesn't. full screen. I do have it on window full screen. There's no way that I don't. If I don't, I'll be... Okay. I am fixing everything right now because the game's not liking me. Yeah, I know. I am fixing this. Just the game's... Okay, it should be working now. It should be working now. I'm hoping it's working now. If it doesn't, I do apologise. I'll try to fix this. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it's being like it is. But I'm fixing it. I'm getting there. And let's... Okay. I think everything should be working now. It should be. If it's not, I'm not sure why it's not then. If it generally isn't. Okay. It's working. We've got it. We got it working. I got it working. Hallelujah. We made it. We made it. It's working now. Ultimately, Riccardo Benzoni, we've missed a lot of qualifying, and I do apologise for that. But Riccardo Benzoni, fastest of all, 19.9. Yeah, it turns out it was both a problem with the game and with OBS. It wasn't liking either of what I put in. It was disliking. So, let's see. Riccardo Benzoni on a lap. On a push run, I believe it is. And I guess I'll bring up some of the spectator stuff, which I should have had in the beginning. But I didn't. Because I like being me. So he has invalidated. Who hasn't? I think everybody's pretty much done their second runs. Keanu Sward improving very slightly. Domi JD. Jerry Van Bussel. Bit of a tough qualifying so far. Down in 12th place. It's taken us a while to get here. Linus Donovan also just having as much as a tough qualifying, along with Ivan Santamaria as well, down in 18th. Like I said, I do apologise. I do apologise for the massive amount of problems I've had here tonight. But I will fix those problems for next time, because I'm not sure why the game was acting like it was today, because it hasn't been acting like that all week long, and I've been streaming other times, and even when I recorded and stuff, wasn't like that. So honestly, quite surprised with how it's been. Ivan Santamaria, though, of course, one thing I've actually just seen, and I've remembered, is how the pit lanes changed. It's no longer on the right hand side of the final corner. It's no longer, you don't have to go round the corner on the inside to do it. It's now right there, as you can see, as Keanu Latour comes into the pits. It's much simpler now, I have to say, which does make it slightly nicer, but it's much simpler. Liam Stevens, I think he is... No, he is on a flying lap. He's out of ERS, though. He's not going to improve. Well, he does improve very slightly. I didn't expect him to improve, but he has, because he's just gone up to a 1 minute 19.937. He did improve position, but he's much closer to Riccardo Benzoni now. The next driver on a lap is Nando Moreira. And so far, looking pretty nice on his lap. Let's run on board with him, heading down towards the right-hander, the double right-hander. You can see a lot of changes to the track in-game. Trees have been added, and a bit more colour to the circuit now compared to F1 23, where it was definitely lacking a bit all over the track. Coming round now through the right-hander into the sort of kink of a left, into the fast right-hander, flat out, very easy for the cars now here in 2024. And again through the left-hand hairpin, very, 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 very nice. He's got a car on the inside. That is a Racing Bull. Now through the fast right-handers, no lifting through these corners, except when you come to this corner, which you think you'd lift for, but no, you don't. Now into the second to last corner, throwing the car in very nicely. Again, barely coming off the throttle. Now into the final last corner, you do have to brake for this corner. And coming onto the curb slightly, but into the pits, Nando not happy with his lap. So definitely some things to find there. Jake Finch, he's currently on a lap. I think there's a Williams on a lap as well. I think that's the Williams of Tuomas Laminen. I've to be honest, I dislike this. I dislike this already. Game sound, why? Oh, let's just see how Tuomas Laminen does. And by the way, between the race and quali, I will get this fixed. I will fix it. I will fix the game sound. I will fix the game sound between the quali and the race, because for me it's working. On my screen it says it's working. And so I am heavily confused right now why it isn't working. But I will that shall be fixed. But yeah, I'll fix that as soon as we get to the end of qualifying. Yeah, I know there's limited time, but it's fine. It should take 30 seconds for me to fix, because I think I should know what the problem is the minute I look at it. But I shall look at it, and it will all be fine. I don't know why. Again, game sound, and everything was working earlier. Everything was working earlier, and because I did a test at about 5 p.m. and then nothing worked. We've got nobody actually out on a lap, but the first driver who will be starting their final lap is Kuba. He's going to be coming to the end of Sector 3, coming through the right-handers right now. I'm going to ride on board with this man because I feel like he deserves it. As he's going to be the first one in that Alpine, the very black Alpine on for this year, of course. Very different livery compared to what they've gone for in previous years, where it's always been sort of blue and pink for most of the car. This year, it's a lot more black on the car, and it's quite a bit more blue. So, crossing line and starting his lap, he's going to head into turn 1. We saw a lot of funny moments in the testing of the game, as you can just throw the car in. Not so much as you could back in the beta testing. Now, through the left-hander of turn 2, very nice. Coming into the flat-out turn 3, and that pretty much is coming into the next two much more difficult corners, and he does go off track, and he does invalidate. Kuba has invalidated. He's now got to push till the end of his lap for him to make sure this works. He spins. Kuba spins. We've got, I think it's Zach Miles, who is next to come across the line. He is up in 6th. He's got a potential chance at pole. He needs 2.5 tenths wide. So, coming round into now finishing off sector 1 into sector 2. Right-hander, I always find that corner a little bit off-putting. And now into the fast right-hander, into now the hairpin, which is kind of like a hairpin, but is actually medium speed. And I have to say, it's interesting, this track. It kind of puts you off slightly, but coming through the triple right-hander now, into the final of the triple, and it's very nice through there, very smooth. Into now the left-hander, very good, but he invalidates. Zach Miles invalidates on the final corner. He's now going to get a race up to the line, because at the moment, he doesn't have any ERS. Will he make it to the line before qualifying ends? Yes, he does, with just 2 seconds to go. Incredibly close there. It is Jerry Van Bussel who improves up to 7th. His teammates next. Daniel comes up to the line. He goes 8th behind his teammates. We see Riccardo Benzoni does not improve on his lap. And after he stays down, Sergio Sabrino, he's lost his front wing entirely. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm wanting to see who's next. Tumas Laminen's actually going to be the next driver who's in contention for pole position. He's currently 4th, as we can see Linus Donovan with a lap out of nowhere up to 3rd. But now we're looking to his teammate, Tumas Laminen. He's improving slightly off of the 2nd sector. He improves by just over a 10th, going ahead of his teammate, Linus Donovan, up into P3 now. Last man chance for pole. He's up only 1/4 of a 10th so far in his lap off of sector 2. Let's see what he can do up to the line. The line's a lot earlier on this lap. He does it! He's on pole position by just 6 thousandths of a second. There's only one driver out on track left. That's Daniele Parodi. And now up to the line. Let's see. And it is improvement there, as we're going to see where Daniele finishes qualifying in P10. But that is an incredibly good session, and actually pretty close and well done to the man of Liam Stevens, who in our social race lobby 2 ultimately gets pole position for this 50% race ahead of us. He finishes just 6 thousandths ahead of Riccardo Benzoni. Tumas Lamin is 3rd, Linus Donovan is 4th, Sergio Sabrino is in 5th, Kuba is 6th, Zach Miles 7th, Jeremy Van Bussel 8th, Domi JD 9th, and Daniele Parodi in 10th, with Daniel 11th, Philip Salsa in 12th, Keanu Latoard, then it's Jack Humphreys and Noel Carman. And I did not see everyone else, but I would say that's still quite a few people that we've gotten in there. But definitely a very good one there. Let me now come back to here. Just before we get into the race, I think it's going to be interesting. I think we are going to have a little ad before we do get into the race, and let's go to that. So, here we are now, and we are actually getting going for the race already, and it's very short amounts of time we've had, and yeah, here we go, into turn 1, they go, and oh, there's a bit of a half spin. We actually got started early. We were meant to be waiting for another 2 minutes, by the way. We were meant to be waiting for another minute or 2 before we got going, but everybody just got going anyway, so this has caught me off guard. And I thought we would have a bit more time than we did. But it's a good start for Jerry Van Bussel up in 3rd. A couple of drivers fighting further back. You got Keanu Latour. Look at all of this. What is going on here? Everybody all over the place. We got going a little bit early. I thought we meant to be going in about 2-3 minutes, not straight away. And so quite an interesting one there. But that's okay because we're still going. I think I might have fixed the problem. If I haven't fixed the audio problem, I will try to sort it while... if there's a safety car or something, I will sort it. But if there is a safety car. But at the moment, we don't have one. But Liam Stevens, what a getaway. He's had, yeah, I know I know you said that there was limited time, but we were meant to be going in another like 2-3 minutes. We were meant to be going so quickly. So, but Liam Stevens still leading 1.3 seconds. He's definitely got the pace, but let's have a look at the... Let's have a quick look at the position changes. Not a good start for Tumas Lamon and bad start for Riccardo Benzoni, down 16 places at the moment. He, of course, had the spin through Sector 1. Looking at the gaps, quite a big gap already. 5 seconds already going back to P13. So it's already quite a big gap already between everybody. Tyres-wise. And tyres-wise, it is pretty much mediums for everybody. 4 drivers on hards. That's Noel Coleman, Jake Finch, and then Jonah Martens and Nando Moreira, who are all on those tyres so far. So a couple of things going on there. Actually, I want to keep something up on screen, and I want to keep the position changes. Actually, so far, good start for Sergio Sabrino. So far, it's the kind of start that he wanted to have, but he's still 1.4 seconds away from the race leader. But of course, this is a new game, so anything could change. DRS is also activated now here on lap 3 out of 29. And you can see Jerry Van Bussel on those medium tyres. He's making that car get round corners with all the speed he has. That Red Bull just eluding him a little bit more. It's just there. It's just there right in front of him, but it's just not working out there. Domi JD, one of the closest drivers to another driver out on track, but that's now Keanu Latour. Let's ride on board with him. Let's see what he's going to do into the hairpin. Is he going to make a move? No, he isn't. He's not ready to make a move on the Ferrari man in front of him, just as of yet. Returning our eyes back to the front of the grid, Linus Donovan's actually having a bit of a bad middle sector here. It's now about a second difference between him and Kuba in P4. Of course, the minute it's over 1 second, it shall ultimately, he will lose DRS, so he is fighting to stay within that gap. The tyres, everybody's on the same. I thought I saw somebody going into the pits, but that was just me seeing things. Noel Coleman gets a 3-second time penalty. It is quite easy with track limits around this track, and so it is quite difficult, and is always how it is. Looking further back, Philip Sousa has now made the move on Daniel for P10 into the points now. We can see a move happening further back. Jack Humphreys on Keanu Latour into turn 1. That's a very clean move from the Racing Bull driver, and that is up into P13 for him now. Looking further back in front, and looking further in front, it is still Jerry Van Bussel. He's struggling a little bit more to keep up, and Kuba is actually closing in on him now. I'm just starting to realise that gap is coming down. It was about 0.6. About 0.6 at the moment, and now it's down to about half a second. So it is coming down slightly, but of course, the gap behind, though, has grown to just over a second. This could leave Linus Donovan in a bit of an area of weakness with his teammate Tumas Lamminen right behind him, along with Zach Miles and Domi JD. But really, it's Tumas Lamminen and Zach Miles he will be a bit scared of at the moment. And this is kind of the thing that's going to be worrying Linus Donovan in this race, is that he's got these 2 drivers behind who are very fast, who are known for being very fast, and he has raced against recently, and so maybe he knows how they're going to drive, but he goes wide off for the final corner. He's still got DRS. He just holds on to it, keeping safe. That suspension, the wobbliness of that suspension really gets me. really makes me laugh a little bit. But the Tumas Lamminen, you can see he's just looking at the back of that Williams, thinking, when is he going to make the move? When is Linus Donovan going to fall outside of DRS? And when is he going to get it? Because, of course, as you know, there is only one DRS zone on this entire track, and that is the pit straight, which does make it far more difficult. But you can see Linus Donovan struggling to keep the car on track at the moment. He's doing everything he can to keep up with Kuba and stay within a second. It's just rather interesting to see how much these drivers are pushing with these cars, because we know they're not as easy cars to work with as last year. They're quite difficult, actually, as I've driven the game. And so I have to say, at the moment, Linus Donovan's not having the best run on those medium tyres. He's still just over a second behind. We can see a moves happen further behind. Daniela Parodi, I think, might have used some overtake. I think she did, to make the move on Domi JD. Daniels lost on a 3-second time penalty. That is the 4th driver in this race to get that. But we're going to be looking to this Williams battle. We don't really see it ever in real life. But we're going to be seeing it here between Linus Donovan and Tuomas Lamminen, heading down into turn 1. There goes Tuomas Lamminen, making the move with quite a lot of ease. And through turn 1 he goes, and he holds on to that position of P5. Any small mistakes can cause big problems. You can see Zach Miles almost hitting into the back of Linus Donovan through turn 2. Anything could happen there. But Zach Miles actually makes the move into the end of Sector 1. And that's actually a rather nice move on Linus Donovan, because Linus Donovan really is struggling at this point in this race. I'm not sure why he is. He just seems to be a little bit all over the place. And there's a yellow flag, I believe, that is for Jonah Martins. No, that isn't. Who's gone round? There's a Ferrari that's going slowly. Or is that a Haas? I suspect that's a Haas. Yes, it is a Haas. Jake Finch. I thought that was a Ferrari for a minute, but no, it was the Haas. But still, Zach Miles now hunting down his next driver, and that driver is Tuomas Lamminen. But these top 4, soon to be top 5 or possibly top 6, are all still very close to each other, all within a second of each other at the moment. Linus Donovan almost having to fall further back. You can see a couple of moves happening further back. Noel Coleman making the move on Keanu Latour. At the moment, the man in the Alpine falling just further and further back in the grid as Nando Moreira ultimately retires from this race. I believe that's Riccardo Benzoni who is in the pits. Linus Donovan gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits, same as Keanu Latour. So definitely some things are going right, some things are going wrong for drivers at the moment. Linus Donovan he's having a bit of a horrible time here. He actually didn't do too badly off the start of the race with all of the chaos, but now it is all falling apart. Looking further up front, though, the gap between the front two really closing in the last sort of 2-3 laps. Jake Finch gets a 3-second time penalty. But this is the thing, anything can change, and I think Liam Stevens was pushing quite a lot on the first couple of laps, and he got lucky with the race start, but now he's got a charging Red Bull. It's the sister team of Racing Bulls versus Red Bull into turn 1. Is there going to be a dive bomb from Sergio Sabrino? No, it isn't. It's going to be a rather difficult one there. And still can't seem to make the move just yet. Even with DRS, even though it is quite strong on this year's game, it still isn't working out there for the Red Bull man. And we're just seeing Joey Van Bussel. We're just going to ride on board with him here. And you're just seeing he's just waiting in behind. He's just waiting in the wings to possibly make the move at any point if there's a crash or a moment that happens between the front two. And this is going to be an incredibly important... It's a good position to be in for Joey Van Bussel, because without getting too close and too much into the action and possibly having an incident yourself, this is a quite nice position. But he has got the one struggle of that the dirty air is going to be worse at this distance than, for instance, it would be if he was further back or far, far closer. But still, I have to say, he's putting in some rather nice lap times, and he's still putting together a very good lap so far, keeping up it looks like quite easily he's keeping up with Sergio Sabrino. So maybe it is Liam Stevens who's just struggling a little bit at this point. Maybe this is why they're both keeping up. but I also suspect it's the DRS that's also helping them. But we're going to ride on board with Sergio Sobrino because he is closing more and more. He's going to make the move into turn 1 as now Sergio Sobrino leads here for the social race in Lobby 2. What a start to this race. What a 9 laps we've had so far. We've been waiting for this move to happen for quite a while, but finally it has, and that Red Bull finally makes the move past. Jake Finch getting another 3-second time penalty here tonight. Nothing's going right for the Haas driver. Looking at that move though, that was a rather, he waited till he was close enough. He held it together in the entire lap, although Liam Stevens might be saving up some ERS here, so maybe I think we'll be seeing Sergio Sobrino under attack from Liam Stevens and Jerry Van Bussel possibly later in this race, or even within the next few laps. But one driver I'm actually quite interested to see is Philip Saucer. He's found himself up to P7 ahead of Daniele Parodi and Domi JD, but he is almost 2 seconds behind P6. This is definitely leaving him in a bit of a weak spot here for the Aston Martin driver. Noel Coleman gets a 3-second time penalty now. That's another penalty for another driver. That's, of course, going to it's going to affect him. It's going to hurt him later on in the race, as we can see Domi JD and Daniele Parodi go into the... I think it was actually... No, it was just Daniele Parodi that went into the pits. We've got a move happening. Jonah Martens making the move up into P14. Is he going to make the double overtake? He looks for it, but he doesn't make it work. As you see, Jack Humphreys moves up into the points, into P10, ahead of Linus Donovan. And this stage just keeps getting worse, and worse for the Williams drivers. Now he's going to drop down to P12 behind Noel Coleman. So everything is going wrong for him here tonight. And I honestly feel bad for Linus Donovan. He had such a good start. Oh! There's a collision. Jonah Martens with a move out of nowhere. We've got to look back in front because there's some contact. There's a lot of contact between Daniel and Linus Donovan into this section now. You see, Daniel's going to come out on top and into P12 ahead of Linus Donovan. But there's going to be a dive bomb from Keanu Latour. He's on the inside line. Is he going to make it stick? Is he going to hold it? And is he... And almost going... No, he doesn't make it work at the moment. Still stuck behind the Williams driver. Some things are going right. Some things are ultimately going wrong here tonight for some drivers. And of course, Keanu Latour won't be wanting to wait behind the driver of Linus Donovan. You can see a couple of drivers coming into the pits. Philip Saucer, Domi JD into the pits. The pit stops will start to happen now. And this is going to be an interesting part of the race now. Is this going to cause an effect throughout the entire grid? Are we going to see the front runners start coming? Because as we've seen, the top 6 all incredibly close to each other, all within half a second of each other. But we have seen the one slight problem of that. Usually you'd see the rest of the grid trying to follow the leaders and what they're trying to do. But here, because there's such a gap, they're not doing that. They're trying different strategies. Of course, it is a new game. And that is leaving me with a little bit of an idea of what we could see happen. Maybe the top 6 will run different strategies to everyone else. Maybe, or will it just be the top 11 that do that? So we've seen from 12th down to 18th now have all had fresh pit stops, except Riccardo Benzoni as part of that. But this top 6, all so incredibly close. But who's going to pull the trigger first? Who is going to go? Who's going to go into the pits first? Of course, the pit lane's a lot later on in the lap as Sergio Sobrino goes into the pits, followed by Liam Stevens, followed by pretty much everybody. All of the top 6, almost collisions happening as Zach Miles almost hits into the wall. As now, we've got our 3rd race leader of tonight. Jerry Van Bussel now leads. I have to say, though, we're going to have to see where a couple of other people come out. Sergio Sobrino does come out in front. Liam Stevens still behind. Kuba, actually, I think possibly working out a little bit there for him. Let's see. Where does Philip Saucer come into this? He's a lot closer. You see somebody moving completely across the pit exit line. Of course, it is just a social race. and so there won't be penalties or things like that, like post-race penalties. But it is still, it's still rather funny to see drivers polling across when they're not meant to. Of course, it is against the rules, but of course, as it is a social race, you got to give them a bit of time. And it is the third day of this game being out as well. But so far, Philip Salsa definitely a lot closer to top 6 on already warmed up tyres. But as we know on this year's game, the tyres are a lot more warmed up and they're a lot more ready to race as soon as you stick them on. So the pace difference on the outlap is not as big as it was. It's a lot closer now. But as you can see, Philip Salsa, even though he did almost look like an undercut, it's not working out. We're going to see Jerry Van Bussel come in, and now Mirko is going to be leading the race. Ultimately, Victor, it is against the rules to cross the white line of the pit exit. I know this because I see it so much. Jerry Van Bussel, where's he going to come out in all of this? Is he going to drop off as far? Has he done a bit of an overcut here? Has the overcut worked? And actually, it looks like for Jerry Van Bussel, the overcut might have just worked out. Because, he's sliding all over the place. Tumas Laminen, because he went wide there, Tumas Laminen's now got in a 3-second time penalty. But Jerry Van Bussel, he's just jumped Philip Salsa, which is exactly what he'll be wanting. And I think he knew he was going to do that anyway. This is exactly the thing that I was talking about, is these complete changes. I mean, Zach Marsden he's completely gone and lost in the action and in those pit stops because he's down in P10 behind Philip Salsa, behind Jerry Van Bussel now. And it hasn't worked out for the McLaren. And he'll, of course, be looking to gain some more positions here. But it's, of course, the difficulty of... It's generally going to be a difficult one for Zach Miles, and I think with everybody being so close at the moment, he's going to have a bit of a tough fight because already, as you can see, almost a second difference between Tumas Laminen and Jerry Van Bussel, showing that there is definitely just an easy pace difference between the drivers. As you can see, Mirko is in the pits, and there's going to be a move for the lead. Liam Stevens, he's going to be retaking the lead. He was on pole, of course, and now he retakes the lead of the race. It's taken him about 5 laps to get back there. But ultimately, it has not... it's worked out for him, actually. Even though he's had to wait those long 5 laps of staying in second place, he's now back up into the provisional lead of the race. And that is exactly what we want to be seeing. A bit of racing going down the pit straight and into turn 1, but so far a lot of drivers taking it safe, a lot of drivers not wanting to risk this high of a position. Even though it is a social race, these guys still are taking it quite seriously because of course they put time, they put energy, they practice for this. But as you can see, Liam Stevens, he's doing what he did on lap 1, or sort of the following laps after the race start, where he just seems to pull away a bit, where already he's pulled half a second to Sergio Sobrino, so I suspect he is using up some ERS. Yes, he is. He's been using a little bit. I can already see it going down slightly. But so far, everybody down to P11, from P3 to P11, is all within a second of each other, and that's really changed the race. I think that shows how much closer it is after pit stops. Maybe how the overcut, the undercut, are kind of similar this year. Maybe it is track-wise, maybe it is track-dependent. But I guess we'll just have to figure out, and we'll just have to see as the season, as sort of this race goes on, whether these gaps are going to stay the same. But we can see somebody's gotten very close, and that's Daniele Parodi to Philip Saucer within almost 2/10 now of the Aston Martin. You can see, trying to get through the corners very nicely. With the dirty air, of course, it isn't going to help at this point. This is probably the closest on-track battle we have, I think, on the grid. Yeah, across the entire grid, this is the closest battle we have at the moment, of about 3/10. But Domi JD staying in behind, of course, there are in-game penalties that drivers have, like Tumas Laminen, Philip Saucer, and Domi JD, which is going to affect their final race finish. But especially with how close it is, they're going to be seeing even more positions lost because of it. Philip Salsa, so far, the worst he could actually see is only P11 for him with his penalty. Let's have a little look through the penalties, actually, because that's something I want to look at. Penalties, 9 seconds for the race leader, 10 seconds for Philip Salsa, 13 seconds for Domi JD, same as Keanu Suarez, 6 seconds for both Daniel and Linus Donovan. It's a couple of drivers feeling it. Everybody's on the hard tyres now as well. That's when I look at that, everybody on the same set of tyres, everybody on those hard tyres just makes me interested in it, because now everybody's on the same set of tyres. They're all equal at this point. And you're seeing that, especially with the man of Sergio Sobrino, who is keeping it close to Liam Stevens, even though he was just around half a second behind this time last lap. He's closed in by about a tenth of a second. And maybe Liam Stevens has a bit of a strategy for this. Maybe he pushes incredibly hard for one lap just to stop himself from getting overtaken down the pit straight. And then maybe he then saves up for another lap. Who knows? This is all mind games for the drivers. When are they saving ERS? When are they pushing? And at the moment, it looks like Sergio Sobrino just seems to be saving some ERS, just waiting behind for when he's close enough with just slipstream and good cornering that he's been clearly showing, and just good race pace across the rest of the lap other than the straights and exits of the final corner. This is the main point, is that this is where Sergio Sobrino is going to have to use some strategy here. Not tyre strategy. It's not even tyre strategy at this point, is it? It's just ERS, and it's cornering strategy. How do you want to take the corners? How much ERS do you want to save? And this is the main point right now, is that they really do need to just make sure. For instance, Sergio Sobrino really needs to make sure that he's using everything correctly. He's saving ERS to the right amount that he wants to use, because when you go on the attack, you're having to keep up really good pace at the moment using ERS. But of course, you do save a lot more ERS on this year's game. And so that is something that I think is going to come in handy for both Liam Stevens and Sergio Sobrino, that as soon as they get attacked or they ultimately attack another driver, they can save ERS so incredibly quickly. Whereas on, for last year's game, F1 23, you couldn't. You had to wait for a couple of laps for the ERS to slowly come back up, maybe saving 5 or 6% per lap. It's just so much easier on this year's game, which I think is something that will help the drivers and will definitely change the way that we'll see racing for the new season of PSGL. And we're seeing it be different for the racing already here in the social race. But still, one man we haven't checked in on is Noel Coleman. He's been leading the race for a little while now on 17-lap-old hard tyres. He's going to be really struggling on those tyres. Philip Saucer's just put in the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 23.021. Pretty decent, I have to say, at this point of the race as well. Pretty decent lap time, especially on the hard tyres, which shows maybe a couple of drivers starting to push. Maybe they're trying to find a bit of time. And definitely Philip Saucer is going to be trying to find that time that he really wants to find the time, which will ultimately find him positions, because he's dropped behind Zach Miles at this point in the race, who he was ahead of after the pit stops. But now he's chasing after this McLaren with all his might, but nothing seems to be working out just yet for him. And I do have to say, this is where you have to save ERS. You have to think about your sort of 5 steps ahead, always 5 steps ahead, or it ultimately loses you more time, and it's just a bit of a waste of energy in the end when you're not thinking ahead. And here, this is the point where, does he want to stay close behind, maybe overheat his tires a bit more, use a bit more ERS, lose out a bit more, or does he want to save up, just use his cornering speed and catch up to Zach Miles, and then use his overtake and all of his ERS down the pit straight? But problem is, everybody's doing the same. And so sadly, for quite a few drivers, they're all kind of stuck where they are at the moment. We see Sergio Sobrino getting all the way up to the gearbox of that racing bull. And I have to say, that's something that we're going to be seeing quite a bit of, I think. I think Liam Stevens shaking a little bit, will be a little bit scared of that charging Red Bull behind him, because with DRS, slipstream and overtake on this year's game, it just makes overtake so easy compared to, for instance, last year's game. Even though it's still very powerful, it was the amount of EOS you drain and then how long it would take. And I have to say, this is a rather difficult point in the race for every driver, because it's, do they want to keep up? Do they want to save EOS? Do they want to be conservative, or do they want to push? And especially with still 10 laps left of this race, you've just got to think, what is going to happen here? You know, who's going to be pushing who's going to try and make that first move? Who is going to try and charge up the grid first? Because that usually causes a chain reaction where, for instance, if somebody like Tuomas Lamminen started pushing up the grid and trying to take the lead of the race, you'd usually see Sergio Sobrino, Kuba, Liam Stevens start to up their defense, use a bit more EOS, become more aggressive, and again, you see that Red Bull right up close to the Racing Bull. But the man that I've been, the man I've had my eye on slightly is Kuba. He's been sitting here in P3 for so long, but he just seems to be quite happy in his position, maybe just waiting until the later stages of the race, maybe lap 26, lap 27, but he's gone off track a bit there, maybe taking a little bit too much of the corner, maybe being a bit too sharp with the car. And now, coming into the right-hander of Sector 2, rather nice. Jonah Martens gets a 3-second time penalty, but you can just see the snake of cars. I love to call it the snake of cars because it is so true, but I really do love it when the cars snake round corners, and especially round Qatar. It looks so nice. But still, at this point in the race, Kuba, I think it's the same thing for Sergio as for Kuba, but Kuba's in a slightly different position because he's more at risk of being attacked than he is of having to attack. And so we might see an interesting bit of pace from him, maybe later on, maybe in the next 2-3 laps, maybe catch somebody like Sergio Sobrino by surprise, and maybe try and get up into P2. Or maybe he's going to try and stick in his position for longer, but we can see he's actually going to get attacked by Tuomas Lamminen, who actually backs off a bit there. I have to say, he backs off quite a bit. Thought he was going to go for a move there, but somebody who is going for a move is Jack Humphreys, all on his own in this race, along with Mirko Soriano, as he moves up into P10 in the points once again. I believe that's the second or third time today that we've seen that Racing Bull move up into the points and into P10 specifically. And maybe things will start to come together. Daniele Parodi with another 3-second time penalty in this race. Things falling apart for the McLaren driver a little bit. Currently in P8, but dropping off of Philip Saucer, miles ahead of Domi JD, about 2 seconds ahead. But this is going to be a risky moment. Daniele Parodi has to put together a really good Sector 3, as they're actually rather good Sector 3 from the McLaren driver. It's only 7.5 tenths behind now, going to 8 tenths, losing a bit of time here. Maybe reducing the straight line speed, maybe got higher downforce setup here. That could be the way to go through the corners, but it's just safe. DRS detection line just at the exit of the penultimate corner. And onto the pit straight now. Daniel gets a 3-second time penalty. Another penalty in this race. So many penalties. Over half the grid have penalties at this point in the race. But you can see just holding on. Parodi holding on for dear life to that. As we see another move for P10. And that is Mirko finding his way back up into P10 in this race. Daniel retires from the race. Bit of a frustrating one, I think. Domi JD gets a 3-second time penalty. A bit of a frustrating one, I think, for the Sauber. While his teammate, Jerry Van Bussel, I've got to talk about this man because he's making a move. He made a very audacious move that I thought he was setting it up, but I didn't think he was actually going to go for it. But he had contact with the Williams of Tuomas Lamminen, which is exactly the reason why you've got to be careful around this track, because trying to send a move into the hairpin, like what Zach Miles is trying to do, isn't going to work, because again, more contact, stopping the McLaren from getting past, and now the McLaren's going to get overtaken by Philip Saucer. Up into P6 goes the Aston Martin, and a very nice move there, a very opportunistic move. This is what I was saying about Philip Saucer earlier. He needs to make opportunistic moves. But as I was saying about Jerry Van Bussel, complete opposite of a day compared to his teammate. P5 at the moment for Jerry. And he is pushing really hard. But, of course, a couple of moves here and there, a couple of mistakes, like trying to do a dive bomb on Tumas Laminin, has ultimately made him lose out. And here comes Philip Sousa. I was talking about the overtake, DRS and slipstream combination of absolute huge amounts of speed. And that was just one showing of that speed quite early on the straight as well. That just shows how powerful the overtake is on this game, along with slipstream and DRS, and I can't believe that. It just leaves me in this moment of my jaw is dropped at that absolute huge amount of speed from Philip Sousa. It's crazy to think the speed difference between this year's game and last year's game. But it's quite exciting though. I have to say, quite a big defensive move from Jerry Van Bussel. I think he knew he was going to get overtaken by Philip Sousa with that DRS anyway, even without overtake. So now he's dropped down a position, down to P6. Jonah Martens, 3-second penalty for corner cutting in this race. We've had 3 retirements out of the 20 drivers, so still 17 drivers left. Looking on ahead, there's Sergio Sabrina dropping off slightly off of the race leader. Currently 6.5 tenths behind. He's got his rear wing open. You can just see that gap. Look at how much that closes. Into turn 1 he goes. He's going to go to the outside. He's making the move around the outside. He's going to try and do it, but it doesn't work. He's now got an Alpine for some help going around the outside of turn 2. We're going to see who's going to come out on top here. The Alpine doesn't. Is the Alpine going to be pushing down towards turn 4 now? No. Kuba does not think of the move. He doesn't want to risk it like Jerry Van Bussel did. But now into the hairpin, we've seen him attempts for moves a couple of times this race, so 3-4 times. It hasn't worked out so far, but it does work now. And hopefully it should work now. And that's what Kuba would have been hoping for, but he was just a little bit too far back to make it work. Ultimately, this is a very big difference. Now, Riccardo Benzoni, our 4th retirement of the night. He was looking so good in qualifying, incredibly fast in qualifying, and then it just all fell away at the beginning of the race, and he's just been sitting at the back so long. A frustrating evening, I think, for the Mercedes man, and we've now seen an Aston Martin, a Haas, a Sauber, and a Mercedes all retire from tonight, which is always slightly disappointing, as, you know, there's always the hope that some drivers could ultimately have some really good weekend, even from being P16 or P17 and pulling their way back up the grid. But sadly, it's not going to happen for those 4 drivers. And that move for the lead still is not going to happen for Sergio Sabrino. We've been watching him for a while now, and still no moves. But this is probably one of the closest fights on track until we look further back to Jerry Van Bussel, who for a second looked like he was eyeing up a move on Philip Sousa. Is he going to be eyeing up a move into the hairpin? Looks like he's a little bit further behind. You can see the difference in the racing line between the drivers. Jerry Van Bussel almost losing the car into the hairpin. The rear locking all the way around, almost spinning into and through the hairpin. But that was a good save from Sauber man. Linus Donovan has retired from the session. And that is our 5th retirement of tonight. It's sad to see quarter of the grid retired, but these things do happen, and it is a social race, and so I don't blame drivers. It is, you never expect these drivers to take social races hugely seriously, especially because it is just a social race. There's no points in it. There's nothing massively special in it unless you go, I finished really well. And one of those guys who'll be able to say they're finishing really well is Liam Stevens up in P1. He's going to finish this race on top at the moment, unless Sergio Sabrino has a different idea, or even Kuba has a different idea, because at the moment, he's been leading this race for about 12 laps now. And he's been waiting, he had to wait 5 laps before he retook the lead. He was leading for 9 laps, then had to retake the leaders. Now Zach Miles has made the move on Jerry Van Bussel, as he has confirmed that move up into P6. Jerry Van Bussel in the Sauber, not looking very good. Definitely some more. But Jerry Van Bussel fighting back, both drivers on the hard tyres. Oh, quite a bit of contact there as they're still both battling. And now Joey Van Bussel battling with Daniele Parodi. But Joey Van Bussel does defend P7 successfully, but couldn't defend P6. And that's ultimately lost them. DRS to P5. And here comes Joey Van Bussel making his way back past. Almost a spin, almost complete contact, causing a spin for Joey Van Bussel, pushing Zach Miles to the inside of the corner. And Joey Van Bussel back up into P6, but he's had to fight his way, and now he finds himself 2.2 seconds off of Philip Saucer in P5. But remember, penalties will see Zach Miles go up into that P6 anyway. And so it's going to be a bit bad for Joey Van Bussel. And here comes Zach Miles now moving up into P6. Will Daniele Parodi also make the move? Yes, and there goes another, both McLarens making their way past the Sauber, but there's a bit of battling going on. Joey Van Bussel not feeling like he wants to give up, sliding, drifting through turn 2. There's only 3 laps of the race to go, and this is the racing we're getting now. Joey Van Bussel, just a kilometre ago, was looking at himself, about a mile ago, was looking at himself being P6. Now he's down to P8. And the race is turning around. So you can see Jack Humphreys and Domi JD battling over P10. Jack Humphreys still not being able to make the move on the Red Bull. And again, we've 2 places on this track where we're seeing the sister team of Racing Bulls battle with the main big brother of Red Bull Racing. We've got this for the lead, and we've got this for P10. And to be honest, this is the stuff I really wish we had in real life. It would really make things rather interesting in real life F1. But here on track, it's the dream of most F1 fans. The racing we've seen tonight has absolutely been some of the most chaotic, but to be honest, some of the best racing we've seen, I think, all season long. But all race long, actually, towards this. And for me, so far, some moves here have been actually pretty decent. Some battling has been pretty decent as well. But you can see Daniele Parodi making the move on their teammate, and that's not going to work out. Around the outside, the overspeed of that outside line allows Parodi to go up into P6 ahead of their McLaren teammate, and now there she goes into P6 ahead of Zach Miles and Joey Van Bussel. Joey Van Bussel sending it down the inside out of absolutely nowhere. That absolutely caught me by surprise. The rear of his car wiggling all over the place as he tries to get on the brakes into that hairpin. But in the end, that move did actually work. I did not expect that to actually work at all for Joey Van Bussel. I thought he was going to spin for a minute, but that was a rather creative and opportunistic move from the Sauber. And I will hats off to him. That was actually a pretty creative move. Although one under a lot of tension and rather worried he was going to spin. But we look back to the leaders of this race. We're about to go on to the final lap here for the PSGL Lobby 2 social race here on F1 24. It's only the 3rd day of the game being out, but we're already getting racing and into turn 1. Liam Stevens versus Sergio Sabrino on the final lap. It is Racing Bulls versus Red Bull coming through the left-hander now. Coming up further as there's battling further back in the grid. You can see Zach Miles dropping down. He's down to P9 now. He's lost out to both. I think it's just Mirko he lost out to. Yes, it is. He's lost a bit of his front wing. So that is front wing damage for the McLaren. He's going to be struggling now for the rest of the lap. He's definitely going to, I would say he's definitely going to lose out to Domi JD and Jack Humphreys, but he is defending incredibly well. You can see Jack Humphreys trying to make the move on the inside. He does make a very opportunistic move on the inside. Here he goes. He's trying to do it around the outside, but the marbles get him a little bit. He's not able to do it. Will he get the No, he's not. He's not going to get that turn in. He's sliding around off of the exit, but we're going to pull our attention. I'm trying to say pull our attention to the front 5, but mainly to this man who is in P1 and leading this race. He's led pretty much every single lap. He has led 24 out of the 29, and coming round the final and last corner here in Qatar for PSGL, it is the social race Lobby 2. Liam Stevens wins here in Qatar, and that is P1 followed by Sergio Sabrino and Kuba, who finished out the podium, but there's a close battle behind. See a couple of penalties happening, drivers going up and down the grid. We're going to see everybody cross the line. Zach Miles does get in front of his teammate. There's a bit of wing flying off of, I think that was a Ferrari. As a Ferrari crosses the line spinning, I believe that was Jonah Martens. And the only driver left on track is Ivan Santamir, who's had a rather lonely race in the Haas. It's been rather a horrible day for him, as he's gotten a puncture on the final lap. He's gotten a puncture. That tyre looks ugly as anything, while he doesn't exactly have a tyre left any more. I just have to say, the way it looks in game is quite realistic. But as he comes up to the line, he will finish P15 and the final driver to cross the line. What an end to today's race. What an absolute crazy one. No, the championship hasn't started, by the way. This is just a social race, Avatar. I just want to make this clear. This is just a social race. As you can see, the Racing Bulls up on the top step, followed by a Red Bull and an Alpine. Something that I don't think we probably never see that in real life. So, let's now get to the grid and where everybody finished. Of course, Liam Stevens taking the victory here in Qatar after 29 laps of racing. Sergio Sabrino ultimately is in P2, P5 to P2, a decent race for him and exactly what he'll be looking for, showing his pace here in Lobby 2. Kuba finishes P3, he waited a bit too long and stayed there pretty much the entire race. Tumas Laminin finishes 4th, Mirko finishes 5th, Zach Miles 6th, Daniele Parodi in 7th, Jerry Van Bussel started 8th and finishes 8th, with Jack Humphreys getting up into the points. Philip Salcedo finishes out the top 10 in that final place of 10th with just 1 point. Noel Coleman is 11th, Domi JD 12th, Keanu Latour 13th, Jonah Martens 14th, and Ivan Santamir, the last of the race finishes, along with these retirements in the race. 5 drivers out, and a rather difficult one for him anyway. What a race it was. What a race it definitely was. I think, might we do interviews? I'm not 100% sure if we are going to do interviews or not. And I'm going to check whether we are. Fixing everything. I don't think we have interviews for tonight. No, we don't. I don't think we do. No, we don't. But that's fine. Even though we don't have interviews, I don't know what to take away from that race. It shows the game. It shows that definitely, I have to say, multiplayer seems a lot stronger than last year. As I say, with the connection problems and everything seems to be a little bit easier to work with. But even with that, I have to say, it was actually a pretty decent race and a very good race from one man. And that man has to be said it, and that's Liam Stevens. He led 24 out of the 29 laps. I have to say, almost complete dominance. He didn't get fastest lap, but he was very fast, and he proved himself all the way from start to finish in the race. You know, he was constantly there, top 2. He never dropped below the top 2 until the pit stops. So, other than the pit stops, he was incredibly good. So definitely watch out for him when he arrives to PSGL in the new season. The championship, I believe the main championship will be getting going in the next couple of weeks, so make sure to look out for that, as I'm excited. Hopefully, I'll be able to comment. I know we've had some problems tonight. I know specifically I've had more technical problems than any other time in my life, but I do want to apologise for that. It's been a bit of a rough one with that, but of course that's kind of part of what social race is for. But yeah, ultimately I haven't had these problems before, but it is fine because we have still completed Lobby 2 and the first social race and the only social race we will be having for Lobby 2 here on F124. But I have to say, it's been an absolute pleasure commentating here tonight. Once again, I do apologise for all the early technical problems in qualifying and missing the little bit of the race start. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have really enjoyed tonight. Please think about subscribing and leaving a like here on the PSGL channel. Show some support. Also, make sure to click on the notification bell to know about when the main championship season gets going, as that will be very, very soon, and make sure to be looking out for that. Also, go follow us on Twitter and just social media altogether, YouTube, Instagram. Come and join our Discord server, Twitter, and also we're on TikTok as well. So we're everywhere. So you better make sure to follow us on everything, or I will know. Ultimately, I also want to say thank you to our sponsors, Sim Racing Center, and of course, our main sponsor, GT Omega. Thank you to them for sponsoring PSGL, as some of this wouldn't be possible without them. Also, thank you just to all the drivers and everybody who has helped to do this social race here tonight, as without them we wouldn't have a social race altogether. But thank you so much for tonight. I hope everybody has a great week, great day, and I will see you, hopefully I will see you very shortly.